Hey everybody, happy afternoon. Hope you're doing well. Jeff Henderson with you here. And Aaron, can we hear you? Are you somewhere in the internet world?
Yeah, I'm here.
You are. How are you, Aaron?
I'm good. How are you? I'm excited to be on this with you today.
Thanks for being here. And we'll get started here in just a second. Aaron's going to help us with Q&A. Aaron, what are you doing for Thanksgiving?
Oh man, for Thanksgiving, we are having about 12 family members over on Thursday. And then on Friday, we have another handful of family members coming over. So it's a busy week for us.
Wow, that sounds. Did you do Black Friday shopping? Do you get up like at 4 o'clock in the morning and go do that?
Absolutely not. What about you? What are you doing for Thanksgiving?
Well, so we have our family come over. We do Wednesday night, and we do Thursday, and then I actually have never done Black Friday shopping. I thought it was the dumbest idea I've ever heard of. And then my daughter was going to go, and she said, "I want somebody to come with me." So I went with her, and it was actually fun. So
good.
So anyway, but well, it's good to see everybody. Daniel, glad you're here. Daniel, what are you going to do for Thanksgiving? We're having a little warm up here before we get started. So. Now, Aaron, are you one of those people that actually listens to Christmas music before Thanksgiving, or do you wait till when it's Christmas time?
I wait until after Thanksgiving, and then we kind of blare it that weekend because that's when we typically do all of our decorating. So that's kind of when we introduce it to the house.
That's awesome. I love that. I think it's un-American to. So Daniel's going to watch the Cowboys win. Yeah, they play on Thanksgiving. That's right. Man, and again, if you just join us, we're going to get started here in a second. But Daniel, Tony Romo's press conference yesterday was amazing. I felt like where he said that that Prescott is the starter. So anyway, that was great leadership. So so go Cowboys. Hopefully they'll play the Falcons in the NFC Championship game. We'll do that. Well, we'll go ahead and get started. And Aaron's with us, and then Kelly Wallace is doing the slides, so we'll get started in just a second. But please, Phil, we're going to go for about an hour, and I'm going to go through some content, but please ask questions, and we can stop and we can dialogue about some questions. So Myron, glad you're here as well. Will Graham, I didn't know you were a Cowboys fan, but there you go. And so today we're going to talk about something that's, we will talk about preaching, obviously, but I want to talk about something a little bit broader in terms of church world. And it's something that you and I are going to have to do, especially as we trend toward the end of the year. And this is a great concept in a lot of things in life. I think it's a biblical concept, but we're going to talk specifically over the next few weeks between now and the end of the year, how we can do this, how we're going to finish strong. So we're going to talk about how do you finish the year strong, how do you do that, and we're going to specifically go over a few items. So I think we can go ahead and put that on the screen, Kelly. I'm not seeing it. Here we are. So we're going to talk about finishing strong. Specifically, what I want to talk about is this verse in Hebrews, which I think is a fantastic verse. And that is, let's run with perseverance the marked out for us, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of faith. And so what I want to do is I want to talk about how do we actually do this? How do we run with perseverance and the race that's marked out for us specifically over the next few weeks? So you might be a lead pastor, you might be a teaching pastor, you might be an administrative pastor, student pastor, however that looks like for you. But I want to talk about how we can finish the year strong. And to do that, one of the reasons this is important is thriving organizations, and this is true whether it's a church, a business, a nonprofit organization. Thriving organizations transition people from benefiting from the mission to participating in the mission. So I want to talk about that for just a second. How do thriving organizations transition people from benefiting from the mission to participating in the mission and finishing strong? Here's kind of the goal. So we got Brother Des. That's right. How about them Cowboys? Myron, Daniel, a few others. Here's why finishing strong is important. What we want to do is we want to transition as many people to our vision and mission of our church as possible. And And there's a challenge with that. The challenge is that it's so easy to underestimate the enormous challenge of engaging the hands and hearts of people. So what I mean by that is, if you've got people that are attending your church, but they're not giving to your church, if you've got people that are attending your church, they're not serving in your church, you've got people attending in your church and mine who are attending but not inviting, those are people that are participating and maybe even enjoying our churches, right? So they're attending the church I lead, but they're not serving, they're not giving, and they're certainly not inviting. Well, those people are participating, but they're not, they're benefiting rather, but they're not participating in the mission. And so what great thriving organizations do is we try to transition as many people as possible from simply participating in it to benefiting from it to participating in. And specifically, how do they participate in it? Well, I want to talk about how we participate, how we get people to participate in giving, and how we can get people to participate in not just giving, but inviting and connecting. So there's 3 areas that I want to talk about to do that. Neil, we're glad that you're here as well. I want to talk about finishing strong as it relates to preaching, and this is over just the next few weeks, right? Jeremiah, we're going to talk about how do you mobilize more members in the holiday events. We're going to talk about how you can finish strong in giving, and then I'm also going to talk about finishing strong the year, this particular year, but preparing for January. There's a way to finish this year really, really strong and also prepare and start off the new year really strong as well. So these are 3 areas that we're going to talk about finishing strong in. And your particular role, you'll have to tailor this to your particular role. But let me dive in real quickly into the area of preaching. And for many of us, the most important role that you have at Christmas is preaching. Now, you might be an administrative pastor, you might be a teaching pastor, you might be a student pastor, and you might not be preaching the specific Christmas message. But I think this is still going to apply to you, because one of the most important roles that you have at Christmas is preaching. And you're going to have more people maybe at Christmas than you are at Easter. I feel like, just a personal opinion, I think more people come to Christmas and are more open to coming to Christmas than they are Easter. Easter's always big, but I think there's just a wider funnel, if you will, of people because of what Christmas is and Christmas represents. So this is a fantastic opportunity. So here's why that's important. Making time for sermon preparation is even more important at Christmas because of the wide funnel known as Christmas. Making time for sermon preparation is more difficult at Christmas because of all the different things that are going on. And if we aren't careful, what's going to happen is we skimp or we minimize our prep time for sermon planning. And yet, one of the most important things that we can do at Christmas is our preaching. So since we have some time between now and Christmas, I want to talk about how can you give yourself ample margin in your schedule for sermon prep. And so there's 4 things I want to encourage you to do and kind of free you up to do and give you the permission. Some of you might just need the permission to be able to do this, okay? And I totally understand. You have all these demands going on as your pastor, as a pastor. I totally understand. Just so you know, once this webinar is over, I go back to being the pastor of this particular church at Gwinnett Church. I'm currently in Atlanta. Not familiar with Gwinnett Church, and this church we started about 5 years ago. So I have my my coaching pastor on, or fellow colleague pastor hat on right now. But when we're done here in less than an hour, I pick up my lead pastor hat and put it back on, and I'm preaching our 4 Christmas services. So here's how we're going to do our Christmas, just so you know, by the way, in case you're interested, and you might not be, but that's okay. And Angel, you're talking about, what about when Christmas Day is on weekends? Does that mean less people show up? That's a great question. Let me maybe try to answer that by telling you what we're going to do. We're going to do 4 Christmas services. We're going to do 2 on December 23rd that night, 2 on Christmas Eve that night, and we're not doing anything else for the rest of the weekend. So our Christmas services are going to be on Friday night and Saturday night, and none on Christmas. Now, you may ask the question, why aren't you having church on Christmas? Well, we just really believe in creating great customer and guest services, and we need volunteers to be able to do that. And we're going to be working our volunteers on Friday and Saturday, and they're not going to come back on Sunday. So we just will not be able to create a great experience. And we want to give, honestly, our volunteers a Sunday off. So that's our Christmas schedule. And we're going to go all out in promoting that. So we actually think those 4 services will be huge for us. So what I'm doing is I'm not telling you to do anything that I'm not currently doing, okay, is my point. So here's what I'm going and what I have been doing. I want to encourage you to go ahead and block your calendar and block it starting today. What I mean by that is, and you may have already done this, which is fantastic. If you haven't, I want to encourage you or maybe give you the permission to do this. And what I mean by that is you might just need the permission of somebody to tell you, hey, it's okay to say no to this stuff if you're saying yes to sermon prep. And so this morning I met with our team, and we have a loose idea for where we're with the whole theme of Christmas. And so I have a direction in terms of
Hey guys, my name is Russell Feaster. We're here at the Rocket Company. We are getting Jeff back in. He's logging, had to log out for a second and log back in. So just give us 1 second. If you have any questions that we could have Jeff answer for our Q&A, if you want to hop over in the chat stream and just post those, whether it's about sermon prep like he's talking about now, about finishing strong, whether it's about anything. You can just drop whatever questions you have over there. And as soon as we get Jeff back, we will get this party restarted. Is everybody doing well? Is everybody hearing me okay? If you can hear me, just give us like a yes or something in the chat stream. Is everybody there? Can you guys hear me? Perfect. Daniel hear me. Todd hears me. Carol, perfect. Okay, great. We are working on getting Jeff back in here. I think there was a connection problem for us with Jeff. So we should have him back in here in 1 second. Hey, Angel George, welcome to the Finish Strong webinar, where we are getting ready to we're working on getting Jeff back in here. Like I said, if you guys have any questions, we're going to do a webinar. Well, we are doing a webinar right now. We're going to do a Q&A in just a little while. So if you guys have any questions, go ahead and drop them in the chat stream, and then we're going to get this going about finishing the year strong, because we know that as pastors, like Jeff was saying, that this time of the year can be crazy. As church leaders, this time can be crazy because while you guys still have family and things that you are doing just in life as well, it can be hard to finish strong and to finish well, finish the year out well. So we want to help you and equip you and empower you to be able to finish the year well. And yeah, so as soon as Jeff gets back in here, we're going to continue on this webinar. Great, we got some questions. Okay, good. Thanks, John, Jeremiah. Like I said, Jeff, once he gets back in here, Erin, who's on this webinar with us as well, she's going to be asking some of these questions. So we're writing all these down. And we're going to do a little Q&A for you.
Russell, you're doing a great job. I see all these questions coming in now. So
Yeah.
hang in there, guys. I know Jeff is trying to get back. Should be just a few more minutes.
Yes. Alrighty. Let's see. So we got some questions going on. Perfect. Jeff, we're working with him right now and getting him back in here. Man, so with Thanksgiving right around the corner, what are you guys doing what's everyone doing for Thanksgiving? You guys hanging out with family? Drop your answers in the chat stream. I am having a Friendsgiving with some friends on Monday. We're starting early. And then we're going to just jump in on the Thursday and do some stuff with my family. We're going to go visit my grandma, hang out with her. Turkey, yes, me too. I'm more of a ham guy. I feel like, I don't know if I can say that, but I am more of a ham guy than turkey. Carol having Thanksgiving services, that's so awesome. Super excited about that. Jeff, welcome back.
Thanks, guys. That was interesting. That was all about. So get back on the. So anyway, where were we?
I think we were talking about sermon prep. You were talking about block your calendar today. And I'm going to let you get back to going.
Sorry, everybody. I just dropped suddenly. Have you ever dropped and lost wireless? I'm sure you have. That's what just happened to me. Hopefully it won't happen again. Typically, I tell our team when we have technical difficulties, that's actually a good sign. The enemy is not wanting you to proceed ahead. So anyway, so we're talking about sermon prep. So block your calendar today. Then here's something, that I've found very, very helpful is you actually writing out the Christmas story by hand. Just for example, just get the book of Luke and just write out by hand. And I'm all for typing and all that's great. But I think just manuscripting the Christmas story out by hand, it just allows your brain and for you to take it in a different perspective, because obviously we're all familiar. It's an amazing story. It's awesome. It's wonderful. But one of the ways that I like to look at and come to the Christmas story from a fresh perspective is actually writing it out by hand. And you might think this is the goofiest thing ever, but I would encourage you to do that. It would just give you a different perspective. When's the last time you've written the Christmas story out by hand? And I think by doing that, that will allow you to just kind of see it from a different perspective. Or maybe, the Lord will give you an insight as you're writing a particular word out. That might give you something that you want to preach on and dive in to the, so as we've got between now and Christmas or your Christmas series, I would encourage you to do something like this. And this is just a way to approach it. In fact, all of this is a way to approach any of this, is 1 hour each day, 1 hour each day, 5 days a week. Write and pray and work on your talk 1 hour each day, 5 days a week. And then I would try to get 3 weeks ahead so that 3 weeks before your first Christmas service or your Christmas service, you're ready to go 3 weeks ahead. And we teach you how to do all of this through Preaching Rocket. But this is a way I think that you can leverage one of your most important responsibilities at your church is to preach on Christmas. So block your calendar today, write the Christmas story out by hand, 1 hour each day, 5 days a week. Or another way is block a whole day week leading up to Christmas, and then get 3 weeks ahead and be ready. And we call it a Preaching Rocket, putting the sermon in the crock pot, and letting it simmer and simmer in you and who you are, and so that you'll be ready to preach this thing in 3 weeks. So that's the preaching part of this. And so so now we're going to go into year-end giving. And so, Zach, you want to hear about how to help your location continue to give through the holidays that tend to cause a little bit of financial stress. So let me talk a little bit about this as it relates to year-end giving. And Paul, we'll talk about how to keep membership continue. How can I keep the membership to continue coming to the church? And we could talk about that a little bit later as well. But as it relates to year-end giving, every nonprofit, really leans in and tries to leverage year-end giving. And so a question I think would be a great question to ask is, what is your goal for year-end giving? And you might have a gap between expenses and what's coming in, but what's your goal? And the reason that's important isn't just for you to carry the weight of that. It's for everyone. It's for your team or your volunteers or your core team to understand, hey, here's where we are and here's our goal for the year. So if it's not defined, it probably won't be met. Defined, it probably won't be achieved. So what's your year-end giving goal? It could be an amount. It could be, I want to sign a certain number of people up to automated giving. And Zach, I think that's a little bit of that might help. What's your financial goal? Is it the number of people that are giving? Is it a giving goal? Is it we've got a goal in terms of a new building that we're trying to build, so we're trying to get a certain amount by the end of this year. So number one, what's your goal? Define that goal as best as you can, and then communicate it and let people know, hey, here's the goal of what we're hoping to achieve as it relates to year-end giving. So that's point number one in terms of year-end giving, is to celebrate what has happened. You want to let people know, hey, here's what's happened this year in our church. Here's some great stories. And for those of you who've been consistently giving, this is your return on your investment. So one of the things that we do is we always do a year-end highlight video. And I think Russell and Aaron maybe put a link to that. I'll try to go find that here in just a second. But basically the year-end celebration video, we want to tell people that are already consistently giving, they've automated their giving, hey, look at what your investment is. And we want to just remind them, you are making a great investment here. It's having a ripple effect in our community and way, way beyond. So celebrate what has happened and be really, really great. I know you are, but be really, really great about thanking your volunteers. And social media. This is from a couple of our attenders, 3 of our attenders, by the way. And we just launched a new 4:30 service, and we gave them T-shirts. And then the reason I put this is that not only can you celebrate what's happened, but if you've got some what we call social media all-stars, there's probably some social media all-stars at your church that are posting on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or whatever. And we get these folks in a room and go, hey, could you help us happening here to people in your social network? And it doesn't cost anything. It's absolutely phenomenal. And so this is an example of allowing other people to celebrate what's going on and how much they're enjoying the church as well. So what's your goal? Celebrate what's happened. And then an email campaign. Now, I know what you might be thinking, Jeff, email is dead. Email's dead. Okay, I totally understand that. But I want to encourage you to try something as it relates to an email campaign. And we tried this last year end, and it had a significant impact on our year-end giving. Okay, significant impact on our year-end giving, and it's basically something that we learned from New Spring Church and from a marketing guy named Gary Vaynerchuk. He talks about jab, 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 punch. In other words, add value when it comes to email. Add value, add value, add value, and then make a request. So here's what we did for our email campaign. We added value first, and this may seem kind of silly. Maybe it is. I don't know, but it actually was received very well. So the first email that we sent out, this was the week leading up to Christmas, was we created a Spotify music list of Christmas songs that you could download, and you could instantly have Christmas music of a list of Christmas songs that we provided. So that was a value. Hey, if you love Christmas music and it's the week of Christmas, tap on this Spotify link, and your friends from Gwinnett Church are giving you your Christmas music playlist via Spotify. And that was our email, free Christmas music. People would click on it, they would get their free Christmas music, and then we would have a PS. And the PS would be, thank you for going ahead and contributing to our year-end fund, and then we would have a link, okay? So that was email number one. Email number two, we sent out a Christmas breakfast recipe. We have a chef in our church. I'm sure you have a chef or people that love to cook, obviously, in your church. And this guy is fantastic. And so he created a video for us that basically had a really easy, but also delicious Christmas breakfast recipe. And it was and we just put on the subject line, easy Christmas breakfast recipe for Christmas morning, and sent that out. And then a little PS at the end that said, and thank you for contributing to the Gwinnett Church Year-End Fund. So there's been value with the Christmas Spotify list, value with this free Christmas breakfast business recipe. Then the next value was we provided an idea for families to do with their kids on Christmas Eve. And it walked them through a really simple but memorable way to leverage the Christmas story and talk about the Christmas story before the kids go to bed. If you don't have kids, we had another opportunity for you as well. And so that was the value. It's the free music, free recipe, free family activity. And then we followed up with a specific email that was nothing but asking for them to contribute to our year-end giving fund. And we sent out quite a few emails leading up to, and then after that we transitioned into, well, that was leading up to Christmas, but then after Christmas, as you know, you still have a week before the year ends. So then we transitioned into how to make the next year even better than the previous year. So in fact, Kelly, if you can, let's go back to the previous slide. There we go. So we added some value emails about here's how to prepare for the year, blah, blah, blah. But then the final email was, and then don't forget, please contribute to the year-end giving fund. And we would include a link to the year-end highlight video that we showed at our final Sunday of the year. And that would be an opportunity for them to spread the message of what we're doing, what's happened at our church. So in terms of your year-end giving, what's your goal? Celebrate what has happened. Email campaign and add value first. So Brian, you're asking, what was the timing of those emails? How far out? We started doing them every day, all right? Every day. We took a break, obviously, for Christmas and the day after Christmas. But then every day we would send one email out leading up to Christmas and then the year end. And then it would be jab, 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 punch, or value, 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 request. I'm going to add value, I'm going to add value, I'm going to add value. And then this specific email, that fourth email, is going to be a request. And it's a very direct request in terms of click this link and you can give now, mail your check. It has to be postmarked before midnight on December 31st, very specific and very bold. But what we found is people started looking forward to these emails because they were done very well, but there was value. They got free music, or they got free advice about how to prepare for the year ahead. And then, I mean, I was a little concerned, Brian, to be honest with you, that we were going to get some negative feedback. Why are you filling up my inbox? You know, it's Christmas time. But what I discovered is that a lot of people are off, and they're just kind of checking email a little bit. And we also, I don't know if this was a great thing to do or not, but we also took those emails and basically put them on our Facebook page as well. So we'll start, Brian, we'll start 4 days out from Christmas. And then when Christmas is over, we'll start December 27th with those year-end emails. But that really helped us get to a great place financially last year. And I think not, you know, there's not a silver bullet, if you will. But those are some things. We had a goal. We celebrate what had happened, this email campaign, and we also leveraged it on Facebook. We added value first, and then we asked people, will you help me? Will you contribute to this? And that's one of the things that I think is the best question you can ask. Here's what's happening. Here's what we believe God's going to do. Here's what God is doing. Will you help us? And I've had to get to a point where I'm okay with that being bold. And it might have to be because I'm 51 now. I'm probably getting a little cantankerous in my old age. But I believe in funding the local church. And I'm tired that there are organizations in this world that aren't going to stand the test of time, that have more money than the church. And I believe in what God's doing here. I believe in what God's doing in your church. Will you help us fund what's happening here? So that's kind of my approach to that. So that's preaching, finishing strong on preaching. That's finishing strong on giving. Now, this might seem a little odd to talk about preparing for finishing strong, but one of the ways that you can finish the year strong is to have a plan for January. And let me explain. I believe one of your goals for December is to make sure that people know what's happening in January, and you're giving them a reason to come back, okay? So you're going to have a lot of people in December, probably more people than you had in November. And I think you want to tell them, hey, we're already prepared for January. Here's why you need to come back the first 2 Sundays in January, or the first Sunday in January, or the first 3 Sundays in January. You know, obviously the first Sunday in January, that's a pretty big day anyway. But I think you want to show people and share with people that you're prepared and you're ready to go. And now here's what that requires. It requires that you actually have a plan, right? It actually requires that you have something prepared in January. But it's going to be impressive for people, for them to see that you already have a plan and that you are so prepared and you can't miss January. This is the best way to begin your new year. And then I would tell them, hey, you're finishing the year strong by being here. But begin the new year strong by being here in January. So you got to have a plan. And that plan can be a sermon series. That plan could be your big idea for January. And it doesn't necessarily have to all fall on Sunday. Let me give you an example. One of the things we're going to do, we did this past January the 1st, is we're going to have a prayer gathering at our church, and it's going to be outside. It's just going to be outside. And I don't want to come inside. I want to do it outside. I just want to be outside. And so, Daniel, I'll get to your question in just a second. So we're going to go on a prayer walk around our church. We're not going to do it 7 times because we don't want the building to fall down. We're just going to walk around first. But as we walk on this prayer gathering in a circle, we're going to have these little yard signs, basically as if you were selling your house. And each sign we're going to have, as people go on this prayer walk around the church, we're going to have a specific thing for them to pray for. For example, pray for the high school students in our community. And then they're going to walk, for a little distance. And then the next sign is going to be pray for the people that are going to come here the first Sunday in January. And then they're going to walk So there'll be signs along the way. And this is a way to pray in the new year. And we did this past January 1st, as I mentioned. I think we probably had 100, 125 people here. We heard so much feedback. We're going to do it again. I would imagine we'll have double that this year. And we had so much feedback because we were not only praying for the community, we were also praying for one another and praying for the church. And so I would have some sort of prayer gathering on January the 1st, if you could. And it doesn't have to be a church service, although if it's just a church service, it's fine. But if you could have some type of gathering on January 1st to pray in the new year, I think that would be fantastic. So have a plan for January, communicate it in December. You've got a prayer gathering on January the 1st. Now, let me back up, Daniel, and ask your question or answer your question. You're talking about what was the timing of the emails. We typically go 4 days out. So we have an email that goes out 4 days before Christmas leading up to it, and it's a value email that adds value, 3 values, and 1 ask. And then after Christmas, take a little bit of a break, and then on December 27th, we have a value, and then ask. So hope that helps. Talia, you're asking about Gary V. Gary's not a Christian, so just want you to know, he's a business guy. If you search Gary V, it's Gary Vaynerchuk. He wrote a book called Jab, 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 Punch, and he's written a number of other books as well. But he's a marketing guy, but I think some of the insights he has is very, very helpful. So in terms of preparing, what's your plan for January? Once you have a plan for January, I would be very bold and consistent about communicating it, either on Sunday and or on social media. Leverage Facebook and social media platforms, and then your prayer gathering on January 1st. And again, that's just an idea. So Kelly, we can keep going. So let me pause and talk a little bit about what we're going to do with Preaching Rocket. So as you can see, for years we've been helping thousands of pastors prepare better and preach better through Preaching Rocket. So thinking of 2017 and trying to do what we're saying, we've been asking, pastors have been asking us, and we've been asking ourselves, what's next? So here's what I want you to consider for 2017, and then we'll get into the Q&A. We're going to introduce something called Preaching Rocket Next. Preaching Rocket Next is basically ongoing interaction like this, idea sharing about some specific ways that you're either moving the needle in terms of volunteerism, giving, leading people, all of that. Ongoing interaction, idea sharing, and evaluation. Evaluation is we're going to have in fact, I think we're going to launch this. And Will, Graham, if you're still online, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong. We're going to provide something for you that I'm actually going to help evaluate your sermons. And we'll obviously have a limited amount because I can't do a lot of that. But I think we're going to do about 15 or 20 a month. And what would happen is that you would send me a link to a Vimeo page or your website, and I would actually watch your video and basically give you the feedback that I give our teams here at Gwinnett Church. So it's fresh content every month, and it's a fresh way to enhance your preaching and engage your audience at Preaching Rocket. So so what we're going to do is we will actually get input from multiple communicators and pastors, and then get ideas and tips from each other. So it's going to be this learning community of Preaching Rocket Next. And so it's $99 a month, but for today, if you signed up, it's only $29 a month. So it's a $70 a month savings. And so if you'll just go to preachingrocketnext.com, we believe $29 a month for 2017, significant difference in 2017 for you. So that's Preaching Rocket Next. Now, Brian, you're asking a great question, and that is any recommendation for types of sermon series for January that you would recommend? Absolutely. Let me tell you the message that I preached at the first of the year last year. I did it on the fruits of the Spirit, and I talked about picking one of the fruits of the Spirit and letting that particular fruit of the Spirit be your fruit for the year. And so I began the message talking about the fact that the new year is ripe with possibility, and that I wanted to encourage people to be possibility thinkers. And then, if we're possibility thinkers, what's possible for us in the new year? And then I began to ask the question, well, what does God think is possible for you in the new year? Well, I think God thinks it's possible in his relationship with you for him to grow the fruit of the Spirit. But then I said, I want you to pick just one. And so I shared with our church how 2015 for me had been a very difficult year. We had moved into our church. I turned 50. I had experienced a lot of loss, losing close friends and family members through just a tragic series of events. And I just hit a wall last fall. And I just had friends and family, my wife, people come up to me and say, hey, we just don't think you're as joyful or as at peace as you typically have been. And that was a clue for me that I need to pick peace for my fruit of the year for 2016. And I talked about what were some of the ways that I was going to do that. And I said, hey, for some of you, for you needs to be joy. And so that's one of the ways, Brian, and that could actually be a whole series. So what you could do is you could pick a particular fruit of the Spirit and go, hey, so today we're going to talk about peace. Next week we're going to talk about joy. So that would be a series that you could do that I think would be fantastic. I also think a financial series would be a great way to begin the year. Okay, so people are coming off of, have had to pay for Christmas, all of that. And so a financial series is a fantastic way to do this. And the great thing about a financial series is I would point people to a financial curriculum, whether it's Dave Ramsey, whether it's Crown, any of that. And I think January is a fantastic opportunity to do that. Now, Brian, I'll tell you this. We offer something here at Preaching Rocket called Timeless. It's a sermon series that's completely packaged, the sermon notes. I've preached this sermon at Gwinnett Church. It's a 3-part series. The first is talking about heaven, and you can see the notes on that. The second is how giving ties into that. And then the third talk is about financial freedom. I think that would be a fantastic way to begin the new year. And I think Aaron or Kelly or Russell, they can provide you a link for where you can access the Timeless series. So Timeless is basically, the goal is to increase giving at your church and help people, put people on the pathway to experience financial freedom. And that would be a fantastic way to begin the new year for people. So I would check out Timeless, and it's a sermon series in a box that you could get today and be ready. You'd have all your sermon notes, all the graphics, all of it's done there completely for you, and you would be ready to go in January. So thanks for sending that, Russell. And here's the cool thing. You could talk about that in December. You can see the link that Russell has listed there. That was fast, Russell. Way to go. So, Aaron, I'm going to turn it over to you right now. That's finishing strong for the next few weeks. We need to finish strong with sermon prep, be ready to preach, finish strong with year-end giving, and then finish strong by preparing for January.
Yeah, so I had some questions about maybe not communicating all that through the internet. Do you guys do any kind of mailers or anything in the bulletin to give kind of that, content and then the ask? Someone mentioned that not everyone checks email, not everyone's on the internet to check Facebook, so kind of other ways of communicating as well.
Absolutely. There's not a silver bullet, there's only one way. So I think it's just multiple turns. And so we do send out a snail mail letter that comes from me that talks about the year that we've had, and then the need that we need for people to, here's our vision and here's our need, and will you help us contribute for the year end. And so there's that. And then I really leverage the offering moments at our church leading up to year end. And I don't think we have this link yet. So we've just created a new video that basically talks about what happens when you give. We basically have buckets. I know people do different things. Some people do offering plates. Some people don't do offering at all. They have the booth in the back. We still do the bucket. And so we've created a video called What Happens When You Give. And if you'll follow along Gwinnett Church in December, I don't have a link to it right yet. We'll probably put this on our blog. It's a really cool video that basically says, hey, when the bucket goes by, and if you ever look at it and you think there's nothing in here, what happens here? Well, when you actually put something in here, or you click a button, or you've automated your giving, I want to show you what happens when you give. And then it transitions into a cool video of things that have happened this year, of people growing in their faith, what's happening in their student ministry, some great memories of the year, and then it comes back to the guide that's sitting there with the bucket, and they basically say, what happens when you give is you invest in eternity, and you invest in life, and you're investing in life change, and that's your return on your investment. So I say all of that to say that I'll show that video the first Sunday of December. So in the offering moment, I'll get up. So we have kind of a welcome, worship, offering moment, preaching, and then a conclusion. I'll get up and I'll say, hey, we have 3 more Sundays here. This is year-end giving. It's very important for us. I want to show you what happens when you give. So that's a live setting that everyone that comes to church that day will see. Then we will use the social media outlets. We will use email. And then I'll actually put a link and say, hey, check out in the snail mail letter that goes out for a year-end recap and to understand what happens when you give. Go to our website here to be reminded of what happens when you give. So those are some ways that we are communicating out to people. And then what I do is I try to write 3 thank you notes a day, and I try to ramp that up to 10, if possible, leading up to December, and just reminding people, thank you for your giving. Thank you for helping us finish the year strong. And this phrase, thank you for helping us finish the year strong, that's been gold. That's really been great because it implies we need the year to finish strong. So it's a positive way to say, hey, can you help us finish the year strong? You're giving people the benefit of the doubt. Thank you for helping us finish the year strong. Finishing the year strong is really important. Thank you for helping us do that. So those are some ways to do that. So there's the snail mail, there's the live setting on Sundays, there is volunteer meetings. I'll go into volunteer meetings as possible. Our team will communicate to our volunteers, hey, and don't forget, thanks for helping us finish the year strong. So I would make sure your team, from children, students, care, when they're around volunteers, this thank you for helping us finish the year strong is really, really important. So those are some ways, Aaron, to do that.
That's awesome. We had another question of how can I mobilize more members in holiday events?
Well, that's a great question. And, the challenge is sometimes I have a tendency to forget how busy people are already. They've got holiday parties, the kids have parties. And so before we put events on, we have to ask the question, is this an event that we would attend? I mean, in our business, I've got 2 teenagers right now, so I have to ask the question, would I go to that event? And if I wouldn't go to that event, but I'm promoting that event, do we need to have that event? So we tend to think here at our church, and this could be totally wrong, but we tend to think that less is more. So the less events that we have, the more likely it is people are going to attend them. The more events we have, the more they compete against one another, and they end up competing with the holiday parties, the kids' parties, the neighborhood parties, and the family parties. So we really try to do less is more. And so for us, our big deal that we have is just December 23rd and 24th. It's the same service. And that's what we're going to do. Now, we do have volunteer parties. We have parties for our guest services teams, but really church hosted. They're not hosted here at the church. They're hosted in someone's homes. But we see that as an event. So I would ask yourself the question, what's the goal of the event? What are we trying to accomplish with this event? Could we reduce the number of events that we have? And could we go less is more in terms of these events? And then the less events you have, the more that you have to place emphasis on communicating just one sole event. Because the other thing that these events can do, if we're not careful, is that they can compete with your year-end giving message as well. And we have to be really careful of this. We have to remember that people aren't coming to our churches to be informed. They're coming to our churches to be inspired. And if I stand up on Sunday and give people 18 announcements, it makes our team feel good because I'm announcing their stuff, but that's not why people are here. So I typically only announce one thing in the welcome, and the offering moment, especially in December, is here's what's happening. Thank you for funding this. Thank you for helping us finish the year strong. So in maybe the event really for your church this year, maybe the event is just the year in giving, and that may seem strange, like that's not even an event. Well, yeah, but communicating messages, the more you say, the more complicated it is for people to actually remember it. So that's a really long answer to the question, Aaron. But I would really say when it comes to events, less is more. And then if you can be consistent and maybe try to connect this event with year-end giving or this event with your Christmas program, those are really, really important. And you might just want to cancel some stuff and go, we're not going to do that this year. And I know that may be hard to do, but I think in this particular case, less is more still.
Perfect. We had someone ask, should we do some specific giving talks? So I think we kind of just hit on that a little bit. Post-sermon, just talking about it a little in the beginning. Is that right?
Yeah, I think you can. I think giving is an angle that you could go towards in Christmas. I wouldn't go there necessarily for your Christmas services, but I think that giving is the Christmas story. God gave, God loved, God gave. So I think there could be a vision casting message. In fact, one way to look at this is the first Sunday in December could be a vision casting message for you. Hey, we're about to enter a very busy season in the life of our church right now. So what I want you to think about is, who are you going to invite? I need some of you to serve, sign up to serve, and will you help us finish the year strong financially to pull off all that we're about to do? So the first Sunday in December could be a vision casting message about inviting people, about serving, about giving, and about being a part of this. And then you could start your Christmas series the following week. So, Aaron, I did see Talia ask about Timeless. Russell, that's a great response. And I would just tell you, it's this series is one that I actually did earlier this year, and part 2 really explains the difference between tithes and offerings. And for many people, they'd grown up in their church and they never knew the difference between, they just thought tithe and offering is the same thing. And we have seen giving significantly go up after the Timeless series. So what I would encourage you to do, Talia, is, and I think it could be great. I wouldn't do it in December, but I think you could get this. But basically, when you get Timeless, you're getting my sermon notes. And then you take my sermon notes and then you make them your sermon. You come up with your examples. You kind of make it your own. But then we provide graphics. So it's basically a sermon series in a box that you get, and it's completely done for you. So if you got Timeless today, you in essence would have the first 3 Sundays of January already planned out as it relates to your sermon planning. And think about that for a second. Think about being already prepared for the first 3 weeks of January. That would allow you to focus even more on December, and maybe take the final week off or take some days off so that you've already got it. So anyway, that's Timeless. It's Sermon Series in a Box. And again, Sue, since you just came in, the goal of Timeless is to increase giving in your church and help put people on the pathway to experience financial freedom. That's why I think Timeless would be a great opportunity a great series to preach about in January, because people are more open to, hey, I need to get my finances in order. I need to get in shape. You can make a play on, you need to get in financial shape. And the reason it's called Timeless is because once you experience financial freedom and you have margin to give to the local church, you're going to give to things that will stand the test of time versus, your iPhone 7 is great, but pretty soon it's going to be outdated. That's the challenge in the world in which we live. So you can, as Russell's telling you here, well, that's cool, Sue. So are you personally working on your January series? That'd be cool. But if you're working on your January series, I would highly recommend you do that. And so you can order it through the rocketcompany.com/store. It's there on the feed. So what it is, Sue, the first week just kind of gives you a broad view of, you'll see the notes, but it talks about eternity and heaven, and then how to invest your time in your life in ways that are going to stand the test of time. Excuse me. Let me get some water here. Then week 2 talks about how you give, the difference between tithes and offerings. And then week 3 is how to put people on the pathway to financial freedom. Because a lot of people want to give, they just don't have the margin to do that. And so we kind of end up the series going, imagine in a few months if you would have the margin to give, and imagine having the margin to give to things that will be timeless. That's the invitation from your Heavenly Father in our church this year. So, Sue, let me know how and if you guys have questions about it once you get Timeless, you email Kelly. I'm assuming that's right, Aaron and Kelly, or Russell. And then I'm more than happy to, if you have questions about Timeless, if you get stuck, let me know. I'm happy to help.
Yeah, they can email help@therocketcompany.com if they have questions about that. It looks like Deborah just finished the Timeless series, and she said it was really well received in her community. So that's awesome. Deborah,
High five, Deb.
Yeah.
There we go.
I'd be interested to know if she took some time off since she had those 3 weeks prepared for her. That sounds pretty amazing to me, Jeff.
Yeah, well, we want to. That's if we can get you ahead, 3 weeks ahead in your sermon prep, and plus, I'm sure you did this, Deborah. You made it your own. You took my notes, but you made it your own, which would be fantastic. In fact, Deborah, I'd love to see it. If you can send us a link, I'd love to see what you did. I know you made it better, so it's great.
Absolutely.
I don't know how to answer Chris's question.
Rocketcompany.com as well. But it looks like we're kind of finishing up here, Jeff. The questions are kind of fading out a little bit. But
okay.
If anyone has questions, they can email help.
Absolutely. Well, I'm just going to finish up with Preaching Rocket next, because today's offer is significantly reduced. It's ongoing interaction, idea sharing, and evaluation. And normally, you're going to get fresh content. It's going to be fresh ways to enhance your preaching and engage your audience. We're going to be providing that with multiple communicators and pastors, and get the ideas and tips from each other. And the cost is typically $99, but today for our community here, it's $29 a month. And you can just go to preachingrocketnext.com. And Deborah loved the fact that they love the pies. I think that was a fun. I used pecan pies. I'm not sure what you used, but that was a fun example in week 2. Also, think about be on the lookout for opportunities to have your sermons evaluated. You'll hear more information coming up next month on that. I'll probably be able to do 15 or 20 about each month, and we'll send you some new information about that. But as Russell said, listed there, preachingrocketnext.com. And let me close this time by praying for you and your churches and the people that are going to come to your churches and mine, and then we'll let you go back to work. God, thanks for the people that have gathered here today. Thank you for the numbers of people that are represented here today through these leaders in these churches. And I pray that you would give us fresh ideas and fresh insight on this amazing story of Christmas. I pray that you would bless each church represented here today financially. And I pray that we would finish this year strong by carving out time to prepare for our sermons, carving out time to communicate vision for year-end giving, and then also carving out time to make sure that we prepare for January. And whether that's the Timeless series or another series, God, I just pray that you would help us and bless our work, which is your work. Thanks for the Rocket Company team and what you're doing through them. And I pray that today will produce much fruit for the kingdom in the days and the weeks ahead. And we pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. Well, Aaron and Russell and Kelly, thanks so much. And we'll let you go. And I'm going to go back to work now. So see you guys.
Thanks, Jeff. We'll see you guys soon. Thanks, everyone, for being here.